Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're back in the garage working on our 1961 Sharknose CycleKart. So stick around. Okay, so in this video we're going to be adding some really cool velocity stacks. I found these on Amazon. I think they're about $12 each, something like that. So not terribly expensive. They got a nice filter on top. There are some that don't have this filter. They're just a velocity stack without the filter, but I thought these look really purposeful and actually would be functional. So part of the function of this will be letting cool air into the engine area. Plus, I may make one of these functional for my air intake. We'll see if we can work that out. Anyway, right now, the idea is to get these velocity stacks installed in this rear hood area, somewhere in this space here. The original car, you can see the velocity stacks here, they appear to be angled toward each other. I'm not sure if that's what I'm going to do, if I'm just going to put them in there straight up and down. It's going to be certainly easier. You can see them again here. There's 6 of them because this is a V6 engine, 1.5 liter in this car. So the original car would have had this little plexiglass or Lexan cover. You can kind of see it in this picture here. There's a plastic cover or glass cover over those, which I'm not really sure what that does. It seemed like that would keep the air out, not allow air in. So a little puzzled by that design feature. I may or may not do the Lexan covers. We'll see what this looks like once the velocity stacks are installed in the hood area. And we'll go from there. I also have to do a little bit of work. This piece here doesn't have quite enough arch, and it's buckling right here. You can see this little bit of buckle in the cover. We need to raise this up, so I'm going to shrink it, pull this off, shrink it some more, and then hopefully get that buckle out of the cover. And once we get that done, we'll turn our attention to this front area for this cowl in front of the dash, and that'll be what we're working on this video. Okay, so working on the rear hood cover for my velocity stacks. I marked the center line and measured over 2.5 inches to find the edge, basically where it goes, and then an inch over to find where the center is going to go. And then I measured and put marks where the holes are going to start, the pilot holes are going to start. It worked out that these are in 4-inch increments, so 4 inches from the front of the hood to here, 4 inches, 4 inches, so it's, you know, they're all separate, exactly the same, and then 7 inches from this center line to this center line between these two, so 7 inches apart. So the velocity stacks will be closer than 7 inches, but that's just where the center line is at. You can see the drawing. This will be the hole I drill, and that's the other hole I'll drill. This represents where the air cleaner is below. So I'm going to see if I can connect this velocity stack to that air cleaner outlet. And the air cleaner outlet's a little bit of an angle, so it'll take a sort of flexible tube. I'm not sure. I may not be able to make it work, but I'm going to try to make this a functional velocity stack for the air cleaner for the carburetor. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and drill pilot holes, and I've got my hole drill over here on my drill. This is a 2 1/8 inch. These are actually 2 1/4 when you measure this outside edge. So the holes has to be 2 1/4 unless you were to cut this off. Then you'd be more like 2 inches. But I'm going to leave that on there because I'm going to use this surface as our mounting point to mount the velocity stack in the cart. I'm going to use some angled metal, some aluminum bends like this. I'm going to bet to bend some more, but that'll create something for them to sit on, and I can rivet through here on the underside to create a rack, basically, to hold them in place, and then attach it from the underside to the bottom of the hood cover here. So okay, so time to drill some holes. I'm using a 1/8 inch drill bit for the pilot holes, and I'll flip it over and drill the other holes from the other side. Pilot holes are drilled. I'm going to get a piece of wood to put under here to protect the cable. The reason I'm drilling from the bottom is that I drilled my little sample piece and left a much cleaner hole on the top side, so the reverse side of the cut. This thin aluminum cuts pretty quick, but because it's angled, it's hard to get it flat, so it wants to cut unevenly. There you go. I'll take a file of those and clean them up a little bit. Okay, so I've got the velocity stack sort of mocked up in here. I've got a piece of wood underneath holding them up. underneath there. And I've got some bent aluminum strips here, 1 inch by 1 inch, and mark the center. So what I'm going to do is figure out exactly where these are going to go here, drill my holes so that they match up here, and then flip it over and mount it from underneath, or that way, whatever. The idea is to get it so that these are roughly centered in the hole and roughly centered that direction. So we'll put one on each side. Of course, these are upside down, but there's going to be one on each side like this, and then over here as well, and on that side. So basically like that, but obviously they're going to be mounted underneath like that, right? So we'll have some rivet holes through here, holding that underneath, and then this will be attached to the side of the velocity stacks. That should be enough to hold it in place, I'm thinking. So may need to notch them on this side because there's less space underneath there. So I'm going to put this in here. We may need to notch this piece to get it so it fits. Anyway, figuring it out kind of as we go along. Okay, so I'm pretty super happy with the way this turned out. They're even, and the height, it looks just about right to me. And they're sitting nice and straight. So I'll show you how the underside looks. I've got them just held in place right now with CycleKart. So I just got these L metal here, or L aluminum pieces, and they're just riveted into the side, or will be riveted into the side later, but right now they're just held in place with CycleKart. And that should hold them pretty sturdy. Yeah, so pretty happy with that. Okay, so there it is on the back of the car, and that looks every bit the part. I think that looks really super cool. I'm very happy with that. Right now with the CycleKart, they're a little bit loose, but once we riveted them in, they should be tighter. So I'm going to call that part mission accomplished. So I did revise the deck lid a little bit. I remade this little cover piece, so the deck lid slides underneath it. I'll need to make a couple of cover pieces to cover up these little holes here, but that's looking pretty good. I think next I'm going to try to figure out a way to make a quick release for this back part so I don't lose the screw again. So we had the cover fly off at Huntsville because those screws worked their way loose. All right, man, it's coming together. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. About a month ago, I finished up this deck lid. Turned out pretty good. Since that time, I've been working kind of quietly, not recording because it's been so ungodly hot here in Arizona. This was made on June 25th. It's now August 30th, so just a little over a month ago. I did make a cover panel for this back end. So the exhaust pipe's going to come through here. And I made a piece of really lightweight mesh here, stainless steel mesh. And made a full panel with a nice cutout for the air to breathe through here. Simulates the original car. I think it looks pretty decent. That's all going to get painted, of course, body color red. The inside of the car will stay, I'm going to try to mask it off so that none of that gets paint on it. So red on the outside, gray on the inside. And I think it's looking pretty darn good. I do have a little bit of work to do here to kind of smooth that back down a little bit. I did some work up here in the front. I've tooled the edge of this curve here. Instead of being just a raw edge, I've turned it over with a tipping tool, kind of tipped the metal up and then hammered it smooth as best I could. Get a little bit of body filler to smooth the rest of that out when we do the body work on that. The hood is about to be riveted in place. I've already got all the other body panels siliconed and then riveted in place on the car. I just made this panel yesterday. This is just a binnacle cover, I guess you would call it, kind of where the instrument cluster would go. This panel will get removed. I think I'm going to go ahead and do engine turning on that. So the next phase is to get this pulled off, put silicone down along all the contact points. I'm just using construction silicone, nothing fancy, just regular silicone you get at Home Depot. This happens to be clear, which is what I've used in the past. It tends to blend in with the aluminum coloring. So if you get a little bit extra here and there, it's not super obvious. So I do that caulking on there for two reasons. One, to help seal it. The second reason is vibration. These motors vibrate a lot. And the harmonics, you'll get a buzzing sound, I guess you would call it. Hard to exactly describe it, but the metal will vibrate. It may still vibrate, but I'm trying to cut down on that as best we can. So I'm putting silicone between the frame and the aluminum, and then the aluminum panels to each other. And it helps also keep it from squeaking and making noises. So like I said, I'm going to pull this panel off, silicone it, and then rivet it all back down. I've got two different types of rivets. I've got a sort of a short rivet, which are these here. These are small, short rivet. These are good for aluminum panel to steel, or aluminum panel to aluminum panel. But when you got more than one panel, which the hood will have, I'm using a longer shank. You see the longer shanks there, because there are Under here, there's a piece of aluminum here. So there's actually 3 pieces of aluminum this aluminum the rivet has to go through. And in some places like here, it's a fairly large gap. So I'm gonna try to squish that down to where it makes good contact all the way across. It's nice and tight. And yeah, so making good progress here. Here's what I'll use to do the aluminum turning. I got these little fiber discs. I got these, I think, at Harbor Freight. Comes with a little fixture. Put that in the drill press and make our parts. So here's some templates I made for the binnacle and a piece of metal that didn't quite fit right. So as I go through this process, there's a lot of stuff down here. There's a lot of templates I made and cast off pieces that didn't quite fit that we'll find some use for later. So, all right, so making some good progress. I'm going to get this pulled off and get ready to glue this down. Okay, so using the drill press and this little attachment I got from Harbor Freight I showed you earlier, I went ahead and did the engine turning on the dash and just kind of worked out a pattern just where they just overlap and overlap. You got to work out what works best for you, how this is going to work. It's not perfect, but I think for an engine turning for a CycleKart dash, it looks pretty good. So I will shoot this with a coat of clear, just so it doesn't oxidize over time, so it stays nice and shiny. So get that done. And then I will delay installing that in the dash until after the bodywork's paint. It'd be easier. I don't want to keep good paint on that. So anyway, this is all riveted down now. It looks really nice. So now I think the next thing we can do is commence bodywork on this thing. And hey guys, I would appreciate you following along in this build. Soon we'll have plans available on the Etsy page for the frame on this. And the design on the frame hopefully will be flexible enough to where you can make it look like any early Formula One car, not just a Ferrari or the Sharknose in this case. It would make it look like a Lotus or almost anything. So thanks for watching, following along, and get out in the garage and build something cool.